Hello from Kampala. Thank you so much for joining me today for a few thoughts from the Bible. Now, I find humility to be a really interesting concept. I had a discussion with a friend not long ago about what does it really mean to be humble? How often are we actually practicing a kind of false humility when we're trying to be humble, and we end up completely devaluing ourselves and our accomplishments? We have this feeling that humility means never accepting that you're good at anything and always just, putting yourself down a little bit, always denying that you've done anything worthwhile with your life. But is that really what the Bible means when it talks about clothing ourselves with humility? Now, this is clearly an important concept. The Bible repeatedly tells us of the importance of being humble. Philippians chapter 2 says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourself, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of the others." So often I think we can read a verse like that and take it to mean that we should place no value at all on ourselves. Yes, we should always look to other people before ourselves. And yes, we should make sure that we're not acting out of selfish ambition. But it doesn't mean that we have to look at ourselves and deny that there is anything good there at all. It doesn't mean that we look at ourselves and say that we have no value. I know I've talked a little bit about Psalm 139 before, but it's really interesting in this discussion, because if you look at these verses in Psalm 139, I wonder, is David acting humbly when he says this about himself? He says, "For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well." So when we're thinking about humility as just denying that there's anything good in us, then this sounds a little bit like the opposite of that, right? I'm amazing. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. As one of God's works, I myself am wonderful. But that's not pride. That's not arrogance. It's not saying, I am so wonderful because of anything that I have done. It's saying, I am wonderful because of everything He has done. God has made me this way, and it is okay for me to recognize that. And actually, if I look at myself and say, I don't really have any talents or gifts of note, then I'm not really very good at anything. The things I do are, they're always less good than everyone else, and I'm just not worthy of any praise or accolades. When we say that, when we put ourselves down that much, we're not really putting ourselves down. We're criticizing the God who knit us together in our mother's wombs, gifting us in just the way that He wanted to gift us. We're saying, well, what you did in me wasn't really good enough, God. The skills you put in me, they weren't really impressive enough. It's okay to recognize the good things that God has put inside of you. That is the secret of being humble right there. It's not denying the things that you've done well. It's not denying the things that you're good at. It's giving all of the glory for those things to God. It's being thankful for how He has made you. It's recognizing the amazing stuff He has put within you. In fact, I think the better you are at seeing those things in yourself, the better you'll be at seeing them in other people too, which makes it easier to value them more highly when you see the wonder of God in and on their lives as well. This is some impressive rain. I hope you can still hear me. 2 Corinthians chapter 10 verses 17 and 18 says, as the scriptures say, if you want to boast, boast only about the Lord. When people commend themselves, it doesn't count for much. The important thing is for the Lord to commend them. Isn't it so much better to have God himself commend you than for you to blow your own trumpet? How much value is added to your self-esteem when you can look at yourself and your own life and brag about all that God has done in it, rather than in your own accomplishments? Because the value that you place in your own accomplishments, that can fade, that can disappear, that can be broken when somebody comes along and says, oh, you didn't do very well there, did you? You know, that's not really up to scratch. But when we are commended by God himself, when we recognize the good things that he has put in us, then that self-worth can never be tarnished. It can never be removed, because we know what God has done for us. Humility really can be a difficult balance to strike in our lives, but fundamentally it's all pretty straightforward. Give glory to God. Recognize who he thinks you are, and rather than feeling proud of yourself, let that revelation of your immense worth spur you on to worship and to recognize more of the majesty of who he is. Thank you so much for joining me today in this downpour from Uganda. It is great to have you here, and I would love to hear from you what your experiences of humility are, what it looks like to live with humility. So feel free to leave a comment and just say what that means to you. But thank you so much for being here. God bless you, and I will see you next time.